Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment of the Township of Union, which is being held pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Law C-231 Laws of New Jersey, dated 1975. Notice of this meeting was advertised in the local source, as well as the Star Ledger, the newspapers of record, and notice of this meeting has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building adjacent to the municipal clerk's office. Roll call, Mr. Manguso.
Mr. Bentavegina.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Graves.
Here.
Ms. Martins.
Here.
Ms. Scott is absent. Mr. McNeil.
Here.
Mr. Wiley.
Here.
And Mr. Champion.
Here, let the record show I was not in attendance for the October 25th and November 1st meeting. There being a quorum present, this meeting is now declared open. Mr. Manguso, are there any communications?
There are no communications, Mr. Chairman.
Hearing none, then we'll proceed with our first case this evening. Our first case is calendar number 3425. Oscar Tanazaga and Gabrielle Pacheco, located at 815 Prospect Street, Block 5804, Lot 16, and it's for the installation of a pool in the front yard. And I apologize if I mispronounced your name.
It's fine. Good night.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me? It's Rob Pansul, I'm the board attorney. Can I ask you to raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
May my son can come here to translate for me, please?
Yes, as long as we can identify him for the record. Can you identify yourself?
Yes.
Go ahead into the microphone. What is your name?
I identify myself. My name is Jair Tanasaka.
Can you spell that for the record?
Yes, Jair, Y-A-I-R, and then my last name, T-E-N-E, Z as in zebra, A, C as in cat, A.
And what is your relation to the applicant?
I'm her son.
And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes,
And for the record, can you acknowledge that your mom swears or affirms as well?
Yes.
And spell your mom's name for the record so we have it.
her first name is Gabriela, it's G-A-B-R-I-E-L-A. Her last name is Pacheco, P-A-C-H-E-C-O.
And Gabriella is the applicant, correct?
Correct.
And she's authorizing you to help and assist her with tonight's testimony, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I mean, as long as you can communicate, does she understand English, or do you have to translate everything? that's going
She
to be said?
understands majority of it, but to like speak back, she needs a bit of help, so.
Okay, she could put her hand down if she's acknowledged that she's swearing and affirming, or affirming her testimony tonight will be legitimate. Whoever's going to be the spokesperson, Yara, it might as well be you at this point, or your mom. You need to summarize, you understand why you're here tonight for the variance for the pool,
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
Summarize for the board what your plans are for the property. We have the application that was submitted. I've marked it A1 for the record. It's your application with the details, and it includes the survey and the photograph of your property. So that is in the record. So your mom and/or you or both needs to summarize what's being presented. And you're not a lawyer or a land use professional, right? You're just here to assist your mom, correct?
Correct.
Do you live at the address as well? Do you live there?
Yes.
Okay. All right, why don't you give the board a summary of what you're looking to do on the property?
All right, so in our house, we got a backyard, right? And it's really small, so we would try to put a pool on the side of our house, which has more space on it. But we can't because it's on the corner of the property. But since our backyard barely has space, we try to see if we had a chance to at least put it on the side where it has more space, to see if you guys give us a chance if we could put the pool there since it's a little bit bigger.
Who's helping you with the construction of the pool? Is there a company involved? How are you going about the purchase of the pool?
El que nos está ayudando con la piscina es el papi, ¿no? O sea, él va a hacer construcción, todo eso.
La construction, papi. ¿Qué es la otra cosa? Otra persona. Diferente persona
Okay.
cada cosa.
So the construction is gonna be my dad. He works in the construction. He knows most of it, and
Electricidad.
the electricity and the other companies are gonna be different people.
What type of pool and the size and the details about the pool that you're proposing?
The size of it, it's 14 times 16.
Above ground?
Va a ser encima del piso, no adentro. Yes, above ground, sir.
It's a single-family residential use in the house, correct? Single-family residential?
Yes, sir.
You understand that any improvements or anything that's done here tonight, it will remain a single-family residential use, correct?
Yes.
The fence that's there is existing. Are you looking to do anything with the fence by way of movement or changing or adjusting what's there?
No, it's gonna stay the same.
Because there may be some details, I think, that you need to address, it seems to me, and I'm only the attorney, but that maybe the zoning officer or one of the board members will have some questions about how that fence is going to be adequate or not as it relates to the pool. I know your variance is for the front yard activity because you're a corner lot, but I know there's certain particulars or things, and the zoning officer, I think, can chime in, or one of the board members, about understanding what that's got to look like in order to get the approval from the town, from this board.
Se dijo que la fensa, él dijo que si la fensa queda, nosotros dijimos que sí se va a quedar, ¿no? Pero dijo que en el papel, en el documento dice que la fensa no está propio, algo así en el papel. So ellos van a ver y nos van a preguntar preguntas para ver si la fensa se queda ahí mismo y podemos poner la piscina.
Ok, dile que ella, eso preguntamos a Dan y dijo que todo estaba bien. A ella, creo que está bien.
So we already talked with the fence with Dan, and he said, we talked with Dan and Tiffany about the fence, and they said it was good, like it was proper.
The fence as it's freestanding and exists might be okay, but there might be different criteria now that you're putting a pool in. Yes.
Oh, la ley es-
Changes, you might have to realize some adjustments to either the size and location of the fence
Okay.
as it relates to where the pool is proposed.
Okay.
That's part of the relief that you're seeking here tonight. I don't know if you understand that.
Yes, I do. So por la piscina, las fensas maybe tienen que cambiar. O sea, la fensa ya estaba bien, pero por la piscina cosas pueden cambiar ahora.
Ok, pues dile que vaya a checar.
Okay, she says she got it.
Okay, do you understand that we would require perhaps some follow-up with the township engineer and/or building departments as it relates to how the fence is going to be constructed, unless the board has any other particulars or details they want to add to it as well? Are you agreeable to make those adjustments if it's required?
¿Qué dijo?
Tú aceptas si ellos quieren cambiar la fensa, se tienen que mover por la piscina, ¿tú aceptas eso? O sea, si ellos te dicen, tú tienes que hacerlo, te tienes que aceptar por la piscina. Yes, she
Okay,
accepts.
Mr. Chairman, unless any other board members have questions or the zoning officer, I would suggest making a condition that the applicant has agreed to work cooperatively with the township, both through the engineering and building departments, as it relates to the location and potential alteration to the fence in context with the pool. I mean, short of that, they're here for relief. I know there's a language barrier, but I think I can add, these are unique cases in that the pool technically is in the front yard because it's a corner lot. It, in essence, if you saw the property and/or the photos, is a side yard area. So it's unique in that regard, unless anyone has particular questions. Or if you have anything else to add that you want to tell the board about the pool and why you're looking to put it where you are?
¿Tú quieres que ella está preguntando por qué quieres ponerlo ahí? ¿Hay otra cosa que tú quieres decir? ¿O quieres que yo le diga que ponemos ahí porque ahí tiene más espacio y
Sí,
atrás
solo
no tiene más
porque
nada?
sí, porque hay más espacio, nada más, esa es la única razón.
So the main reason why we want to put the pool on the side of our house is because the backyard is not big enough, and if we do put it there, it's like gonna barely have enough space for our family to enjoy. So since we saw that we live in the corner of a house, and we saw like the side of our house has a big yard, so we decided to put it there since it's a bit bigger.
Okay, you understand there's setback requirements as well. That's part of why you have to adjust. You don't have room in the back, correct?
Correct. Correct.
I just would like to add something. On your drawing, you have 16 by 10. The pool. I'm not sure, I think that you're going to have to look to see what actually does fit. I don't know if 16 by 14 would. 15 by 14, I'm not sure, because this is not scaled. But just keep in mind that you're going to have to maintain the 6 feet from the property line and the 10 foot from the house for the setbacks of the pool.
So, ¿qué tamaño él piensa que sería la piscina entonces? Pregúntale.
My mom asks is, what size you think the pool should be then, since it's required 6 feet, 10 feet?
That I actually can't tell you, because again, like I said, there's no scale here for me to scale, to determine what size pool. That would either come from a pool company, or if you said that your husband's into construction, but you'd have to figure out your lot lines and then make sure that it meets the requirements 10 feet from the house and 6 feet from the property line. Or you'd have to have a surveyor come and survey the pool, the size, and he can plot the pool and tell you this size fits. I'm not sure if a 16 by 14 does fit. I don't even know if a 16 by 10 does. You drew it on here, you've given me the right measurements of what it should be, but when you go to translate that into this property, I don't know if it would work. So just be mindful of that. And the second thing I would say is, you were approved through Dan from a fence that was 4 feet high. Just make sure that you work with the building department, because that fence may no longer be acceptable and may have to be higher so people don't jump into your yard. And then when it becomes higher, because you're on a property, on a corner lot, there are sightline issues coming in and out of Prospect Street and out of Concord. So it can work as long as you're willing to work with the building department and myself as the zoning officer, just to make sure that there's no discrepancies if this is approved.
So, él puede ir primero mejor a chequear si la fensa. Porque... Oh, sorry.
No.
He's got a,
Okay.
One at a time. You can come up and testify, but let's finish with you first.
he can come up.
Ok, so dile que primero vaya a chequear la fensa, porque yo no sé si hay que mover toda la fensa, entonces tampoco sé la medida de la piscina, y si no me permiten hacer una piscina grande, entonces prefiero no ponerla.
No quiere que te diga que él me dijo primero a mí.
Okay.
So dijo que si pones la piscina, la fence que es 4 pies, maybe tiene que ir más grande por las personas que pueden cruzar.
Oh, okay.
Y cualquier cosa que nosotros hacemos en la piscina, ellos no saben si el 10 por 16 vale, porque solo dibujamos, no es como pedimos a alguien que venga y que ponga ahí y que le den papel diciendo que la compañía ya lo hizo, o sea, ya puso la piscina. Nosotros pusimos, a él no sabe todavía. Pero dice, si ponemos, de ahí ellos van a ver qué tenemos que hacer, y cualquier cosa que ellos piden tenemos que aceptar por la regla del departamento de construcción.
Yo no sé qué hacer.
Is there any further response from this witness? Because apparently someone in the audience is with you on behalf of the applicant.
Preguntar a Oscar, que a mi esposo, pregúntale.
She's asking if her husband could come up.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure she was done first, because we're trying to this is all being taped, so we need to have an orderly record.
Got it. She
Does she have
understands.
anything else to add for her testimony, or no? She's going to defer to her husband. Is that the other applicant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, he can come up, and we'll swear him in.
Oscar, explícale todo.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide is the truth and the whole truth? You swear or affirm that the testimony you provide is the truth and the whole truth?
¿Tú aceptas las reglas del departamento?
Yes.
For the record, state and spell your name.
Escribe el nombre. Primero.
Oscar.
Escribe.
Can you spell it, please?
Escribe O,
O
S,
S
C,
C
A,
A
R,
R.
and then tennis acá.
And you're the other applicant. There's two applicants, you and Gabriella, your husband and wife? Okay, and you live at the residence at
Concord, on Prospect.
815 Prospect, right? You're the
Yes.
owners. And your son lives there with, anyone else live there with the three of you?
My little sister,
Okay.
besides that.
And single-family residential, that, I've confirmed that for the record, that's not changing.
Yes, sir. Como dos a la chasis. Yes.
You came in late, but we offered a condition that there are certain particulars that might have to be worked out with both the engineering department and/or the building department as it relates to the location of the pool and/or the fence, the size of the fence, and where the fence is going to wind up crossing the property line, because there might be a site triangle issue. Your hardship has been noted for the record. You don't have the room in the back, you're putting it into the side, which is technically your front yard. That's why you're here. That's why there's notice. We'll give the public an opportunity to question if anyone is here tonight to talk on this application. Is there anything else you want to add, Oscar, about the proposal?
¿Quieres agregar algo, decir algo? O sea, si pones la piscina, muchas cosas pueden cambiar porque tú solo escribiste cómo quieras la piscina, no es como otra compañía vino y escribió dónde puede ser y ellos pueden ver. Tú solo escribiste, o sea, ellos no saben la verdad. Si tú puedes poner el 10x16 y si pones, tienen la fensa, el chances que tienes que la fensa de 4 pies tienes que subirlo y hay muchas cosas que hay que cambiar.
escuché todo eso.
Y
Dile que la línea de propiedad está bien, que estaban los puntos de survey. Explícale primero eso.
Ya hay que ir una persona.
Bueno, entonces si es que no se puede poner la piscina, yo no voy a mover la fence tampoco.
Creo que hay que decir que no vamos a poner la piscina, porque él dice que tienes que mover y si aceptas o bien, nada puede cambiar.
Si pones la piscina tienes que aceptar todo lo que ellos te dicen sin ir atrás.
Y no puedo poner la piscina más pequeña.
Tú no puedes, o sea, alguien tiene que venir a escribirlo.
Entonces, que alguien vaya a chequear la piscina de cuánto es, o es de 10x16.
No sabe. Tienes que aceptar todo lo que ellos dicen. Si tú dices sí hoy, tú tienes que aceptar todo de ahí en adelante. Si dicen cambia la pesa, saca.
Is there a question you need of me that helped it move it along? Because we have other cases tonight. If there's something you need help with, we can try to help you. I'm just the attorney, I don't vote.
He does have a question.
Okay, what's
La
the issue?
piscina puede ser de 8x10, pero para no mover la fence.
He's asking if the pool could be 8x10 just to not move the fence.
The problem with giving you the answer to that tonight is some of the details aren't in the application. The specifics need to be added to the application, and that's going to require follow-up with the building department.
I don't want you, a 16 by 10 may work. When it's being measured out, you have to figure out your property line, and then you measure 6 foot back. So it could work. I don't know. I'm not saying it has to be a specific size. When you go with the pool company, or you buy it from a pool company, they usually have somebody that will come out and put it in the right spot, or show you how to do it. And you had mentioned that your dad's doing it himself. So I just wanted to make sure that he makes it right, because if you, like I said, if you hired a pool company, they plot it in the right spot by your survey. So a 16 by 10, 16 by 14 may work. You don't have to make your pool smaller. You know, that's up to the measurements you're gonna come up with. Again, I can't tell from this, you know, I can't tell because I don't have it scaled. If you brought in a different survey, if you're approved, maybe we could sit down and go over it and come up with something. But, you know, I
Your
don't
pool
want you.
company will understand that, I would think. When you purchase, I assume you haven't purchased the pool yet, have you?
No, we haven't.
Well, that's part of the missing piece here. That person who is going to provide the pool for you will need to coordinate, 'cause you're going to need permits if you get the variance relief tonight to work with the building department. That's why I made the statement that I did, to try to move it along for you. Otherwise, you got to come back with the details. We're trying to give you the ability, unless the board has a problem with the variance, and they'll deliberate and mention that. Other than that, we're trying to provide you with the mechanism tonight to at least get the ball rolling, to see what type of pool can fit into this space or not.
Yeah, and the best thing I could say for you is, before you go buy the pool, come to my office, sit with me. We will write down on a clean copy, you take it to the pool company and say, these are the setbacks that need to be met, and he will tell you what size pool can go there. Okay, is that fair?
Yes.
You have to rely on them.
You have to rely on them. You can't just buy a pool and just think it's gonna fit in that spot. It might be too big, but you can fit a pool here. It's just, I don't know what size.
Got it.
And just for the record again, the fence may be an issue depending on, the pool, okay?
Got
So
it.
we may have to make the fence higher, something, okay?
Got it. So, él dice que la piscina 10 por 16 puede funcionar, otro tema está bien, pero el problema es que tú viniste sin el permiso de una compañía de piscinas. O sea, viniste aquí y tú solo pusiste tu parte y pues la piscina no está aquí. O sea, los profesionales que tienen títulos, tú no contactas nada. So, ahí tú tienes que llamar a ellos para que ellos vengan y ellos te pueden dar la piscina correcta. Y te escriben por ti en el papel y con eso ellos van a estar bien. De ahí ellos van a...
regresamos. Sí.
Tienes que regresar yo
Ok.
con el papel. Y dijo que también después que hacemos de la piscina con la compañía, la fence maybe puede ser un problema. Maybe. No sabe todavía. Tienes que esperar hasta que te firme todo eso de la compañía de la piscina.
Ok. Dice que volvemos entonces con los papeles de los que tenemos.
Yara, can you confirm that your parents understand the conditions that we've raised here tonight and they're in agreement?
Ustedes entienden y...
Sí, sí, sí.
Yes, they do.
Do you have any other evidence or information you want to supply to the board about the pool and about why and where you propose? We have the record developed. As I said, we're trying to accommodate you, and that's why I intervened. I don't normally do that, but I understand you're not used to doing this type of application.
Yeah, my dad was just saying how we could come back with the permit of the pool and stop by his office so he could help us to
Correct.
see on the paper.
Correct. Don't commit to anything. The best advice, I don't give advice, but make sure you coordinate with the pool guy, with Mr. Manguso's office, because you don't want to waste money or do things that you won't be able to implement, and that'll be a problem. And you're on notice of that, so you just have to take it one step at a time. Don't get too far ahead of yourself.
Okay, got it. Dice cuando tú coges el permite de la
Mr.
piscina,
Champion, I would ask if any board members have questions
Yes,
before we open it to the public.
I'll do that. At this time, are there any board members that would like to question these witnesses?
I just have one, and it's more probably to Mr. Nguso, and that is the depth of the pool. Is it documented on what you received already?
Oh, for the 52 inches, maybe?
From the 52 inches,
Yeah, is that what it is?
The depth of the pool.
The depth of
you know
the
what,
pool?
I can't say that because they don't even have a pool yet. They didn't
What-
come with a pool, so that's why I would say in testimony, that's why I left it open for, to work with my office to explain this on, the depth and the size, so, that would legally fit in there
He has something in mind.
and meet the set.
Just so the record's clear, if they can't accommodate the setback, you're not giving them a setback variance for the requirements to the property line or the house. Those standards are expected to be fulfilled. They're here for a front yard area variance, because it's the corner lot.
Correct.
If, for some reason, you don't satisfy the criteria of location for this pool, you would have to either adjust what you're looking to do or come back to this board for new variance relief. That's why the zoning officer is explaining to you, before you commit to the purchase, make sure you coordinate these details with his office, because you're not prepared to do that tonight. I mean, we could just adjourn it and have you come back, but we're trying to be, practical about it and at least build a record so you get the opportunity to see if you can move it along. I don't know what time of year you're looking to do the construction. Do you have a timetable in mind?
¿Tú tienes el tiempo cuando quieres hacer la piscina?
Yo quería hacerlo por diciembre. O maybe, creo que no va a pasar el tiempo hasta comprar de la piscina. Maybe en enero.
¿Enero?
Al menos no se vence. ¿Se vence? Pues que lo vence. En enero, por ahí.
No diciembre.
No, en enero.
Enero es el primer mes del año. Maybe like around June.
Okay, well,
January,
that
my
gives you
bad.
time to do your research and to circle back with the zoning officer. I would suggest before June, you need to have these details in hand, size, location, depth, because the depth of the pool and the siding also could implicate additional standards for you that would require additional fencing or other details. If it's 52 inches, I think is the standard, which is your depth, that could satisfy your need to put the fence, and that may adjust where you have to change the fence you already have. There's a lot of moving parts here, which you're candidly not really ready to go forward with tonight, but we're really trying to help you, because I know you went through the process and you noticed the neighbors and you have the application submitted, so you started the process. That's a good thing. And unless the board has any other questions or doesn't act favorably on it, you'll be able to move it along, hopefully, and get to where you want to go. The variance tonight is for being in the front yard area.
Correct.
It's technical because you're on the corner lot. So that's what the board is considering, to allow you the opportunity to put the pool there. But it's subject to satisfying these standards and conditions. Okay, I think, Mr. Champion, just to move it
Yeah.
along, because they're having too many separate conversations here.
Are there any other board
I wanna have
members
more of a Q&A.
besides Mr. McNeil that would like to ask this applicant questions? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question these witnesses?
Yep. Go to the other side.
Could you just state your name and address for the record, please, and spell it?
Antonique Thompson, Antanik, Thompson, 811-813 Prospect Street in Union, New Jersey,
Thank you.
07083.
Thank you.
So I'm not sure that my question is necessarily for them, but for you all. I have no objection as long as it meets all of the town's requirements, that there is no safety issue because I do have a toddler, and that the fence is the appropriate height. Also, that it is no obstruction issue because it is a corner property. There's quite a bit of activity at Concord and Prospect. And I'm not sure if it is impacted by that, but it is in fact a multifamily house and not single. So as long as the board and it meets all of the town requirements, I have no objection.
Right, thank you for your comment. That's exactly what I and the zoning officer were trying to confirm, so the applicant understands that's necessary. So I appreciate your comment, though.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to comment or ask questions of these witnesses? Yes, Mr. Johnson.
They're stating that it's a single-family dwelling, but on the application, it's stating a two-family dwelling.
Yep.
So I'm just,
You have to ask them. He said it was
It's-
one family.
It's a two-family.
She said it's a two-family.
It's a two-family.
Okay.
Two-family.
All right, well, I had asked you the question, if it's single family and you were the only ones who live there, it's a two-family?
Yes.
Will both families have the opportunity to use the pool? Is that,
Si el apartamento está arriba, también puede usar la piscina de nosotros. She has never thought about it.
who lives in the other unit?
¿Quién vive arriba?
Is it rented or it's family?
Yeah, rent. We're-
Does that change the zoning analysis at all? I don't think it does. but-
Not as long as they live there.
Okay, as long as you're living there and as long as there's no objection to the other person who's a resident there. That's a good catch, Mr. Johnson. No, that's noted for the record, because I had it in the record that it was single family by their testimony.
Are there any other board members that would like to question these witnesses? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question these witnesses? Hearing none. Gara, would you like to sum up? Would you like to have any further comments? Ask questions of Mr. Mongoose or Mr. Bansula? Or are you good with your testimony?
I'm good with my testimony, but I have one question. So after this court, do we go to your office or we have to come another day to talk about the paper thing?
Whenever you're ready to do this, put the pool,
Mhm.
you will set up a meeting with me in my office. I will explain to you what you need, what I expect, what is code, and then you could take it to your pool company and show them, and they'll tell you what size pool fits there. They'll tell you what size pool you can fit there. It might not be a 16 by 10. It may be a 16 by 14. It may be a 10 by 10. I don't know that.
Got it.
but something will fit there.
Thank you.
Okay, you could be seated. Okay, at this time, we could conference this. Mr. Bentavegna, would you like to begin?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a problem with the application of what they're trying to do. Just like everyone's been saying, just make sure you work with the building department before you do anything. Don't do any work. And agree to any type of modifications that need to be done. And I'll vote yes tonight.
Mr. Johnson?
I agree with my colleague, as long as all the permits are followed, I'll approve, vote yes.
Ms. Martins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After hearing the testimony provided today by the applicant as well as the public, as I will be voting yes, as long as the applicant works diligently with the building department to make sure everything is up to code. Thank you.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I agree with my colleagues. I don't have a problem with this at all, and I'm going to vote yes.
Mr. Graves?
I also concur with my colleagues, as long as they meet the qualifications of the building department, I'm supportive.
And Mr. McNeil?
I would also agree, and I do intend to vote yes, provided that the applicant adheres to all conditions set by the engineering department and the zoning board officer.
Thank you, Mr. McNeil. As for myself, I feel the applicant has demonstrated that they are entitled to the variances requested as long as they meet the criteria outlined by Mr. Manguso. So I too will vote yes for this application. At this time, can I have a motion and a second?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board grant the variance applicable to this application and that council is directed to prepare a resolution consistent with the board's decision.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Bentavegna?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Martins?
Yes.
Mr. McNeil?
Yes.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
And Mr. Champy?
Yes.
December 13th, I'll put it on the agenda for the zoning board.
Did you hear that?
December 13th, but you know that you're not to do anything anyway until you go to the zoning officer, so, just so we're clear. Thank you.
Proceeding with the meeting, our next order of business will be calendar number 3424, Best Buds Union LLC, located at 2200 Route 22 East, Block 3702, Lot 5, and it's to permit a cannabis facility with the associated improvements. Counselor, would you like to begin?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Danielle Federico from the law firm Chiesa, Shahinian, and Giantomasi, appearing on behalf of the applicant Best Buds Union LLC.
Counsel, could you just spell your name for the record? I'm sorry, I wasn't.
It's Danielle, D-A-N-I-E-L-L-E, last name Federico, F-E-D-E-R-I-C-O.
Thank you.
So again, on behalf of the applicant Best Buds Union LLC, with respect to the proposed development located at 2200 US 22 East, which is designated as Lot 40 in Block 3101 on the township's tax maps. Just to briefly introduce the project, the applicant is seeking site plan and conditional use approval to renovate the existing one-story building on the property and proposes to operate an adult-use cannabis retail establishment within the existing building. We did recently make changes, which our architect will describe, in response to the board engineer's report, and also after consultation with the traffic engineer that we engaged in order, the traffic engineer stated that in order to more easily obtain the required letter of no interest that was mentioned in your board engineer's report, that the cannabis retail dispensary use should be reduced. So we have reduced the use. Originally, we were proposing 4,616 square feet. Again, this is all within the existing building, and that was just reduced to 2,975 square feet. And the remaining space is being proposed for of the 1,641 square feet would be dedicated to a future office use, not for this applicant, and that tenant is not determined at this time. Again, our architect will describe that further. These plans have been submitted to the board. They were submitted yesterday, emailed the day before. Your board engineer also was able to review them, and I know an email was sent to Mr. Manguso from the board engineer saying he reviewed it, and we could put that on the record if you guys haven't reviewed it, that email. But again, our architect will go through that. But with respect to the proposed cannabis retail facility, that is a permitted conditional use in the corridor commercial zone where the property is located, provided we meet all the conditions. We don't meet one condition, and that is with respect to the location being within 1,500 square feet of the residential, within a residential zone, and we are approximately 20.88 feet. The existing building is from Jeffrey Lane. Again, there's no change being proposed to the existing building footprint. There's also a number of existing nonconformities on the property, which our planner will describe. So we do need that D3 conditional use variance for that location being near the residential zone, but we're not making any change to the building footprint. This is an existing building that we're just simply having this use be put in there. No changes are also being proposed to the site access, which is all off of Route 22, as our architect will describe. And I've submitted the affidavit of service and proof of publication. And unless there's any questions for me, I have 3 witnesses for you tonight, consisting of our district manager, an architect, and our planner.
Thank you, Ms. Federico. Any questions by any board members? Hearing none, would you call your first witness?
Sure. So with that, I'd like to call my first witness, Ms. Brittany Bailey, and she's a fact witness. She is our district manager for the applicant, Best Buds Union LLC.
Ms. Daly can hear me. Can you raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you can provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
If you could just state and spell your name for the record with your business affiliation.
Brittany Bailey, Brittani, Bailey, Bailey, and I'm the district manager for Best Buds Union LLC.
Thank you.
And Brittany, how long have you been in this role?
I have been the district manager for Best Buds Union LLC for about 2 years now.
And what are your responsibilities with respect to the business operations?
I oversee all of the compliance, all of the day-to-day retail operations, and ensure that we're following all of our standard operating procedures, and I'm also in charge of hiring.
And the applicant is going to be a tenant at this property?
Yes.
And is only planning on operating out of the cannabis side, correct?
Correct.
And the property, you're familiar with it?
Yes.
And it's currently vacant?
Yes. It was previously occupied by a mattress retail store and a battery retail store.
And there's no changes being proposed to the existing site access, is that correct?
No changes being proposed.
And all of that site access, all ingress and egress is off of Route 22, correct?
Correct.
And with respect to the proposed use, can you confirm what's being proposed?
We're proposing a cannabis adult use retail establishment. And in addition to that, we may have a occupant for a tenant in the unoccupied side of the building.
And the cannabis retail facility, that's a permitted conditional use in the corridor commercial zone?
Yes.
And you received municipal support for this proposed use?
Yes, we did. We received support on March 8th, 2022.
And the use being proposed, the cannabis retail use, that's regulated by the state?
It is. Best Buds Union LLC received a conditional license from the State of New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission, which is required by the Class 5 retail license.
So at all times, you'll operate in compliance with the state license as well as the township's cannabis business permit, is that correct?
Yes.
And what are the anticipated days and hours of operation?
Anticipated days and hours are Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., which is in compliance with the township.
And can you detail the anticipated employee requirements for this proposed use?
Yes, we anticipate 8-hour shifts for our employees, and we'll have about 8 employees per shift, but that also varies upon demand.
And can you also detail for the board how product is stored?
All product is stored inside of the building. It will not be visible from any public roads or any public places.
And is there any consumption on site?
We are not proposing any on-site consumption, and further with that, there will be no alcohol or beer on site for purchase or storage, anything like that, all in compliance with the regulations.
And can you also detail for the board what type of security this use involves?
Yes, so I'll start off first with storage of our vault. So inside of the building, all cannabis products are stored inside of a vault that is either a safe or a vault that is secured to a wall or a floor. This vault is following all CRC and DEA requirements for a controlled substance, and there's going to be motion sensors in there. There's going to be cameras that cannot be tamper-proof or tamper-evident. There's going to be silent alarms. There's also going to be a vibration sensor as well. And in addition to that, we will have video surveillance. That video surveillance will be in the interior and exterior of the building, covering all areas of the inside and outside of the building. And that will be running 24 hours a day, all in regulations with the state requirements. Additionally, with that, all of our security protocols will be following the state requirements as well, and we will be coordinating with the police department and making sure that we're all in coordinates and connecting with security protocols.
And can you also detail the proposed security lighting?
Yes, so we are proposing external security lights. That way that we have better visibility for our video surveillance system. We're deferring to the board whether those security lights should be motion censored or if they should be operating from dawn till dusk.
And all this security lighting is going to comply with state regulations, correct?
Correct.
Can you also go through the board to describe the signage that's being proposed for this use?
Yes, so the signage is going to be where the former tenant was. So it's all existing areas within the property. We're just going to be changing the text to identify the business.
And that signage will also utilize the existing pylon sign, is that correct?
Correct.
So you're essentially just refacing these signs, you're not putting up new signage that wasn't already there?
Correct.
And I have no further questions for this witness.
I have a question for Ms. Bailey. Will there be a police presence during operating hours?
We'll have security on site, likely. There will not be police presence on site. But again, we'll be connecting with the police department. So if at any time, there's an emergency, anything like that, we want to have our security protocols in line with them.
All right. Are there any board members that would like to question Ms. Bailey?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Chairman. Who will be monitoring your security cameras?
We have a security company that monitors all security, all
Will
of our
they be
security
monitoring
cameras.
the cameras 24/7?
We will have on-site monitoring, and then we'll also have system alarms. So anytime something goes off while hours of operation are not, in process, anytime after 9 p.m., and we'll be alerted as soon as anything is happening within the store.
I have a question really quick. So you mentioned there's going to be security, your own security, hired by Best Buds.
Correct.
Will they be there from the minute you open to the minute you lock up and you go, they go?
We'll be processing the need for it. So some stores need higher security than other stores, and with that we assess, what hours of operations we need them there, if they're needed at all. We oftentimes find that this retail establishment is run just like any other retail establishment, and security isn't needed at some locations, and it is at others. So that'll be part of our full assessment.
Okay. Just to give you a little information. The other ones on Route 22 all have security. So just keep that in mind when, you know, the board is asking questions. They
Understood.
all have agreed to have security, on-site security, you know.
Understood, and we
Open to
prefer
close.
security. We prefer security, just some locations, with the assessment, it's not needed, but security of our location is priority, and our employees and the community.
Okay.
Where are some of the other locations you're referring to for these experiences? Are they in New Jersey or are they in other areas?
Maryland, Arizona, and Ohio, and there's one other location in New Jersey.
There is, where in New Jersey?
That's in, the location is drumming off the top of my head right now.
All right, but you're basing your
I've heard-
testimony on experiences that...
I primarily oversee Maryland.
Okay. You're basing it on experience that these places have already been open and operating, correct, in Maryland and some of the other
Correct,
states?
yes.
Yeah. Any incidents to describe that change your view on security, or is it...
All of our
what's your
stores in
experience
Maryland,
showing you?
all of our stores in Maryland have security, open to close, and are monitored by 24/7 security alarms, and our cameras are monitored 24/7 as well.
Are there any other board members that would like to question Ms. Bailey's testimony?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Ms. Bailey. Just walk me through how the patrons enter the building. Are they buzzed in? Is it appointment only? Explain to me how that works.
Yes, so it is not appointment only. With adult use, the doors will be unlocked. People can walk right to the reception area where we will process their ID. They are not buzzed into the building at this time. They're able to walk right in. Normally in the medical market is when you see that people would need an appointment to come in, but it's open to the public for adult use, so they're able to walk in.
All right, getting back to security, are you going to have a physical security officer on site, inside and out, or are you basing it on cameras?
Our security is inside of the building. Again, it's a need of assessment if we need one outside as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. McNeil?
What's the anticipated volume of patrons coming through on an average day?
We're anticipating to see about 200 patients a day.
And everyone comes in one door and goes out an adjacent door, or do they go out the side of the building, out of the back of the building? How do they get out of the
There will
facility?
be, it's all through the front door, so there'll be a front entry door where they then provide their information, they get signed in, and then there's a separate door to the sales floor. They will enter that way. We'll likely have another door next to that entryway that's an exit, but then they'll all exit through the front door.
So no one exit the facility from the side or toward the back?
No, they will all exit from the front of the facility.
What about the employees? Do they have access?
Employees do have
Backyard.
access to all of the doors just for safety, but it's not required, but we encourage employees to be entering through the front door as well.
Any other board members?
My question is, would you have any objections to hiring an off-duty officer while you're open?
We don't have any objections to that, and we find that normally our security that we have on site, they are previous officers as well. Or we tend to hire a third-party company that hires retired officers, but there's no objection to that.
Any other board members that would like to question Ms. Bailey's testimony? Hearing none, I'll open it up to the public. Are there any members of the public that would like to come forward and question Ms. Bailey's testimony?
There will be a time later for comments. This is just...
This is just testimony. Questions on our testimony, not
Yeah.
comments.
You'll have to judge it for yourself, because I don't know what you want to question.
If you have a question of what she just testified about, you can ask her. Otherwise, there's a time for comments after the witnesses are done.
At the end of the meeting, if you want to make a general comment, you can make it then. You'll wait till the end?
You got to come up here and give your name and address.
Sharon Galitsky, 532 Fairway Drive. My question is, you testified that there's going to be 8 employees, but only 200 customers a day. Where are the customers going to park?
So that's 8 employees per shift. And the customers, it's not all going to be at once. We see high volume, high traffic stores. It's very in and out. So they will all park in front of the building. And we work quickly to get customers inside and out of the building and keep them moving along their way. I've had stores that had more parking than this at this facility, and less parking than this at this facility with the same amount of traffic, and there's been no issues with parking.
But there's 8 employees, so there's 8 cars, and if you look at the current lot, there's about 8 spaces.
And the employees will not be parking in the front of the building, they'll be parking in the side of the building.
Okay, I don't think there's room there, but that's a big concern. We're concerned, and maybe this is too much of a comment, how will you keep people parking there versus in our neighborhood? That's behind there. There's not going to be enough parking. I know that already because I think you're underestimating greatly the number of customers, because I've seen places like this, other places in New Jersey, and you're going to have a lot more than that. And there's going to be a lot more cars, plus 8 cars per, for employees. I'm assuming they're all going to come in their own car. There's not going to be enough parking, so they're going to have to find other places to park. And that's going to also affect our neighborhood. I'm sorry, I hit that. So there's not enough parking there, so I'll leave that to the comments, but you need to rethink because there's not that many spaces there.
Hilda Artisona, 680 Rosner Drive. I can practically look at the building. You said that there's the only access to the building is 22, which is not the case. There's access from our neighborhood. People come to our neighborhood through the back all the time, every day, every morning, every evening. Maybe it's people who work on 22, but how will you keep that building secured so that people don't just cross over the way they've been crossing over? People go to all of those stores right there on 22 from our neighborhood, and they park in our parking lot, which is right next to a children's playground, which is mind-boggling to me that would even be considered. It's like, here's your building and here's the playground. So how would you protect the entrance, the access back and forth?
And if I may, we do have an architect here who's going to describe the site and all the access, so I would prefer to defer to the architect with that question.
Okay.
I'll just note for the record, too, that the applicant is here with a permitted use at a site that's pre-existing. So a lot of the particulars about traffic and Route 22 and off-site issues are inherent in no matter what business goes here. So that's a variable that if there's any conditions we can put on, obviously tonight we're going to try to do that. But the parking requirement as it relates to the applicant, they're compliant to what the expectations are.
I don't know. We live there, that's not compliant.
Well, the thing is that's the rule, so I don't make the rules. That's what the code provides. That's all I could do is tell you what the code provides.
Herbert James, 613 Jeffrey Lane. First of all, you're talking about your security light system. How does that affect shining in our yards from that distance? And you talk about the space distance from a building to your property. It's like half the distance. And you don't see that as a problem to the people in the community?
So with the lights, our goal is safety, And that's why we're deferring to the board whether it should be on consistently from dawn till dusk. But we definitely want to have some type of motion light for security cameras and security surveillance for better visibility.
And I'm still concerned about the playground issue. You know, so there's the kids in the playground there, so what are they supposed to do while people walk through there to buy their drugs?
It's similar to any other retail establishment where people walk in, buy the product, and then they leave the facility. There isn't going to be any consumption on site, so there will not be, consumption, anything like that. They're going into the facility, buying their product, and then exiting the facility.
My concern.
Please, if the audience can let just one person testify at a time, the proceedings are being recorded. So it's very difficult if there's 4 or 5 people talking.
My concern still is the distance of what the variance says of what this property is supposed to exist from a property. And why are we trying to ignore that and saying that we can secure it? You're securing your property, I understand that. But what happens with my child is playing in that park, my grandchild, is in the playground there. I don't have no control over who parks there and walk over there to that business. That's my concern.
My name is Christian Pelaez. I live in 608 Jeffrey Lane. Basically, Pelaez, 608 Jeffrey Lane. I'm technically behind you. My biggest concern is also the playground because I also have 3 little daughters. How are you going to control when your people come and buy your stuff, they're not going to go to my playground and use it?
That's something that when we work with the police department and coordinate those security protocols, if it becomes an issue, we can definitely consult with them and speak with them. But the playground is not our property. So, but again, this is why.
Well, you are aware how close you are to the playground, right?
Yes, and connecting with the police department is very important to us to make sure that things like that are protected and security is being followed that way.
I just want to bring to the board that I understand in the state of New Jersey is legal, but I want you to be aware that we have a kids' playground so close to that property. And our kids is all the time there playing. And I believe we pay very high taxes in this state, in this city to have something like that, to have this.
The issue,
Go through this situation.
We've had other cases like this because it is legal, as you said.
I know it's legal, but not close to the houses.
It's
not
legal.
close to the residents.
That's why they're here tonight, is to
Yeah.
explain in relation to the residential zone, as the other 2 that the board approved were also in that criteria, because Route 22, the way it's situated.
And once you have in Route 22, they're not close to residential. They're not behind my house.
They are. There's 2 other ones who are within the same distance of residential zones.
Yeah, but I don't want this behind my house.
Well, that's a different issue, but I'm explaining to you legally, it's permitted, and the problem with what happens, what you think might happen with users, goes beyond the purview of this applicant. All we could do is call the police, similar to if it was a liquor store and somebody buys liquor. If you go buy a quart of scotch, it's not expected you're going to drink it in your car or take it to the park and drink it. If you do, the police will be summoned and you will be issued a summons. I mean, that's common courtesy. That's the way it is expected to work.
My name is Bannister Poe, Bennisterpo. I live in 1020 Blackberry Lane. So we're concerned about if there's something happened, call the police.
I think we're getting off the field. Right now, we're asking questions of this witness of testimony sheet provided only.
Yes.
You'll have the ability to offer comments. Everybody will
Yes.
later. They have 2 other witnesses yet, both an architect and a professional
Yes.
planner who's going to testify about
Let me just please hear me out. This happened like 6 months ago. We're concerned about the safety, and if you have some issues, call the police. It happened. there was a transaction of marijuana in the park. Somebody left the backpack by the park next to the garbage can. It happened that I saw it, so as soon as the car left, I went in. I was not even close, 6 feet from the bag. I can smell the marijuana. What I did is I took that, put it in my garbage, called the police. What the police told me, just throw it in the garbage. So, that's it.
And we're just talking questions of her testimony.
I just want to also say that the gas, my name is Eileen Casanelli, and I live on Fairway Drive. And Casinelli. Okay, so the gas company has an opening right by Batteries Plus. Everybody parks by the park and walks there onto 22. That's a big concern, because all people, and the cops, when you call them, I've caught people beating up each other. Another one was, I saw somebody selling drugs in the park, and the cops don't come. I don't know what you think, but this is, I'm paying almost $13,000. I don't want anybody smoking marijuana in the park where my kids could be. I don't want them in the park smoking there. I understand it's legal, but not when you're right up against the houses. No. And especially with that opening that the gas company has.
Are there any other members of the public that would like to question Ms. Bailey on her testimony only? Hearing none, Counselor, would you like to call your second witness?
Yes. With that, I'd like to call my second witness, which is our architect, Mr. Gregory Cordasco. Sorry if I mispronounced your name.
If the witness can hear me, could you raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
For the record, state and spell your name for the record.
Sure. My name is Gregory Cordasco, Gregory, Cordasco, Cordasco.
And Mr. Cordasco, can you give the board the benefit of your educational background and experience?
Sure. I am a New Jersey licensed architect. I'm also a New York licensed architect. I am a member of the American Institute of Architects and also of NCARB. I've worked at my current employer, Tricarico Architecture and Design, for the last 8 years. And before that, I worked in a family architectural business for the last 20 years.
We'll accept his credentials.
Thank you. Do you know how to use this?
I do not know how to use this. Because I can bring up that one.
I don't know if I mentioned it, Counsel, but I did mark A1 for the record, your application as it was submitted. I marked A2, the site plan, as it was revised through yesterday's date. And then I marked A3, the signage package that was submitted as part of the original application. So we have A1 through A3 for the record. Unless he's colorizing or changing the site plan as it was submitted, we can just refer to his site plan as A2.
And Mr. Cordasco, there's been no changes since yesterday to the plan that was submitted?
That's correct.
You're familiar with the site and the project?
Correct.
And you helped prepare the architectural plan that's on the screen tonight?
Correct.
And that's A2 for the record? It's A2? It's been marked by the board attorney as A2?
I don't see that.
Yes, that's what I marked. I marked the revised site plan that you did A2 for the record.
Okay.
And can you walk through your plan for the board of what's being proposed, the existing conditions?
Sure. So right now, it's an existing site is a two-tenant building, and we're going to keep it a two-tenant building. It is a brick building with wood trusses with a gable roof. Currently, there is, can I use my fingers to zoom in here? Let me see here. Oh, you can use this. All right, there we go. There we go. I'm having a little trouble. Oh, maybe this. There we go. so small. There we go. So currently, we are 23 spaces with one loading space for a parking lot. I can see it better there, right? It's hard to see on here. It's not very user-friendly. All right, so currently there is 24 spaces with one loading. We're going to have 23 parking spaces with one loading. What we did is we removed one parking space in order to have a handicap accessible aisle for the handicap parking space. The existing curb, ADA curb ramp is existing to remain. There is no addition of square feet to the building. As far as the outside, there is no, additions, no modifications to the building. Let's see what else we got here. How do you switch pages? Is there a, oh, I got it, I think. Right. There we go. All right. Let me just go through the floor plan for you. Okay, probably easier if I just point to it.
Bring your microphone, please.
So the main entrance, it would be the lobby. That's the double doors entering. A patron would enter the lobby, have their ID checked, and then once that was acceptable, then they could go into the sales area. There is a ADA restroom for the customers, drinking fountain. There's an employee restroom, a data room, manager's office. There is a rear exit, which is existing. There's the break room. It's set up very similar to almost like a bank. So you would come in, and then there's a teller's line, which customers do not have access to the back of the teller's line. Off of the teller's line is the DEA cage or the vault, which is where you keep the product secured. The hatch space to the left would be the future business area. There is a door in the rear, and we do propose to remove one of the doors in the rear. Let me just go back to the site. Let's see. Okay. The entrance and the exit are existing. There is a fence around the property currently along all three sides. And we are proposing to have a generator in the rear of the building. Currently, there is a transfer switch for the building with a generator plug in the rear. So at one time, there was a generator for that building. We are proposing to have a generator in the rear that will be there all the time. So it will be a automatic generator. If you were to lose power, the generator kicks on and it's able to keep the security going. So even if there is a power failure, you still have security, and it could also run whatever security lights you have, whatever alarm systems and whatnot. And then that's all recorded. So they have a digital system there that so it's all recorded, and it continues to record even after you lose power. Here we have the exterior. The right side would be the Best Buds. The left side is the future office tenant. Again, no modifications to the building. There we go. This would be the north, I believe the west side of the building. And this is the side, that's the other door in the back of the building that Best Buds would have access to. So technically, we're under 50 occupants, so you only need one exit for egress. But they have that's an existing exit, so that's there. This is the rear of the building. There's the one door is existing, and they're proposing to remove one of the doors that's in the rear. The rest of the building is all existing, no changes. I believe that pretty much sums up the architectural portion.
And Mr. Cordasco, you reviewed all the reports issued by the board engineer, is that correct?
Correct.
And do you take any issue with complying any of the items in his report?
Nope.
The one thing I do want to mention, there was in the board engineer's report dated November 9th, 2023, there was item 2.4, which states the applicant shall provide a letter of no interest with the New Jersey Department of Transportation. Our office has been in contact with Mr. Venezia, and our concern was that the DOT may take their time with issuing this letter of no interest. So we're respectfully requesting the board, in the event that the DOT takes longer than like 6 weeks, we would prefer that the condition in the resolution state that in the event that the DOT takes this longer than 6 weeks, that the board engineer has, in his sole discretion, the ability to waive the condition of the NJDOT letter of no interest, just in the interest of time. And also, I know there were comments about parking, so I just wanted to also put on the record, Mr. Philip Haderer did review these plans. Our office sent them directly to him in advance of this hearing, and he did issue an email dated November 14th, 2023, to my boss, Mr. Mark Liebman, and he states, Mark, I don't have time to prepare a fourth engineering letter, but what I can say is that transferring a portion of the building from retail to office use would actually reduce the parking demand for the Best Buds application. Retail and office use are both permitted in the CC zone. No parking variance is required. I just wanted to put that on the record in case the rest of the board members didn't receive that email. And I have no further questions for this witness.
Just for the record, Mr. Chairman, I have no problem recommending a condition. You have to defer to the DOT's acknowledgement of the no interest. The board normally would defer to its engineer to work cooperatively with you and with the DOT in that regard. I don't necessarily see us putting a timetable on the DOT because we can't usurp what they need to do, but certainly you'll get the cooperation as you've already started, as you put into the record. The township engineer, I think, will work in full force with you. And just so the architect can confirm, the revisions to the plan, which downsized, in essence, the square footage, was actually as a result of some of the recommendations of the DOT, correct, to impact the site?
It was in response to the board engineer's letter and then us engaging a traffic engineer. The traffic engineer had to do some calculations for the letter of no interest, and it became apparent that it would not be as easy to obtain the letter of no interest, not that it was impossible, but that it could potentially come up with some issues. So in the interest of time, we decided to just reduce the application at this time.
Okay, just so the board is clear, because I know that the plans came in late, but there really was no other consideration for you other than it was downsized, in essence.
Correct.
So it didn't prompt any new variances or concerns. Actually, it probably lessened some of your discretion in that regard as a way towards our engineer to work cooperatively with the DOT. So I have no problem with the condition other than the time constraints. I don't think we could usurp DOT's timing to review it, but I think you will get the cooperation, and the board can defer unless they have questions or concerns about it to Mr. Hatterer and or Mr. Venezia at Collier's office to work in cooperation with your professionals and the DOT.
Thank
do
you.
know, too, the fire department as well had some comments. There's no problem with anything you read from the township, and we can note for the record, the expectation is to fulfill the township's engineers and fires or other departmental comments as they are submitted as part of this package, correct?
Yes, we have no issue with that. I haven't reviewed it, I haven't seen any fire department comments, but again, we have no issue with complying with those
I can
requirements.
tell you, it's through memorandum, just so the record's clear, dated 10/13/23, 10/13/23. Activation and testing of the fire alarm and sprinkler systems. Any deficiencies need to be repaired throughout and up to code, expected. Number 2, keys in the Knox box will have to be updated. Number 3 of 5, FDC sign will need to be installed. Front left side of building where the fire department connection to the sprinkler system is. Number 4, a 5-inch stores locking cap will need to be ordered for the current FDC. Order from the knoxbox.com. And the last is to label utility rooms and make sure current exit signs are operational. It's standard code compliant details from the fire department.
And we have no issue with those
Thank
comments.
you. So noted for the record.
Thank you for the clarification and an explanation, Mr. Pansula. At this time, are there any board members that would like to question Mr. Cardasco's testimony?
I do have a question.
Mr. McNeil?
Concerning the fencing, on the site plan, it really only shows fencing along the back of the lot, but I heard testimony that it's on 3 sides.
It's on the back, and then it's on the, I don't know if you're looking at the building, it's definitely on the left side. I'd have to look at a picture to make sure it's on the right side, which is that side. The right side is borders against the gas station, the abandoned gas station, but the left side has fence. And that's the part that adjacent to the park.
PSC&G right away that runs along
Right,
that
yeah.
side. And the note indicates that that fence needs to be repaired. Is there any initiative to just replace the fence with something more secure?
I believe the client would be very acceptable to replacing the fence.
On 3 sides?
I would have to review with them, but we've had some talk before this meeting that that would be something that they might be acceptable.
And if I may, I just did look back at our client representative. We have no problem, it's something we did discuss. We have no problem with doing that. The one thing I would want to put on the record that in the event that the fence, whatever the board determines that may look like, or the height of it, triggers a variance, I would just want that to be noted on the record.
And the second question I had concerns a little of the interior. Port 105, or door number 5, is that a secure door that accesses the break room and the rear right door, exit door? Is that a secure
Yes, so that,
entrance?
you would need a key fob in order to get through there. So that's why we split the bathrooms right there. So one bathroom would be for the patrons, and then the other bathroom is for the employees.
Any other board members with questions?
I do note for the record, Mr. Chairman, part of Collier's 2.2 is a reference, just so the public is aware, that the applicant has added a proposed muffling of the sound for the generator to the rear. I mean, and Colliers did note that, because I think that was an important note for them to mention the muffler and/or the sound reduction for to mitigate any noise that comes from the generator when it's actually operating.
Correct.
I also will note too, I don't know if the board has a preference, they mentioned the lighting, or the representative did, whether you have motion sentence as opposed to dawn to dusk. Usually, I think we defer to engineering on that as well, as long as it's compliant to the luminance and the overage and that kind of detail that you don't need a variance for. We'll make that subject to follow-up in terms of the logistics of the security features and whether it needs to be motion, because motion gets tricky sometimes if it's going on in the middle of the night off a deer or some other reason that you don't want it going on and then stays on. So let's note that as a cooperative effort with the township and the applicant, should the matter be approved tonight.
Any other board members with questions for Mr. Cardasco? Hearing none, at this time I'll open it up to the public. Are there any members of the public that would like to come forward and question the testimony, only the testimony that Mr. Cardasco has given? Comments will be deferred to the end of the meeting. Hearing none, Counselor, would you like to call your, I believe, your last witness?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with that, I'd like to call my final witness, which is our professional planner, Mr. Sean Moransky.
Good evening.
Good evening. If the witness can hear me, can you swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
For the record, state and spell your name with your business affiliation.
Sean, S-E-A-N, Moransky, M-O-R-O-N-S-K-I. I'm with Langen Engineering and Environmental Services, 300 Kimball Drive, Parsippany, New Jersey.
Thank you.
And Sean, can you give the board the benefit of your educational background and experience?
Yes, I have a master's in planning from New York University, member of the American Institute of Certified Planners since 1999, New Jersey licensed professional planner since the year 2000, and my license is current. Have appeared before several boards and was before this board earlier this year on another application.
The board will accept his credentials.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sean, you're familiar with the site and the proposed uses?
Yes, as part of my preparation, reviewed the plans and the application, consulted with the client and the architect, visited the site and the surrounding area, reviewed the reports that were issued by your board engineer. I also reviewed your 2021 master plan update, the relevant sections of your zoning ordinance, and also relevant ordinances that are applicable to cannabis businesses in the township. The site, the operations have been described, as well as the site. Your engineer, Mr. Hader, in his letter talked about several existing non-conforming conditions. This is an undersized lot. It's about 21,000 square feet, 40,000 is the minimum in this zone. Minimum lot width of 200 is required, 140 exists. Minimum side yard is 20 feet. It's 10.39 feet that's existing on the eastern side of the site. The rear yard, 50 feet is the minimum. 20.82 feet exists and will remain. And the minimum lot depth, 200 feet and 150 feet exists. These are conditions that aren't going to change due to constraints of the surrounding development. And this would be the case for any permitted use. This is a permitted conditional use, but for any permitted or permitted conditional use that were to locate at this site. But with regards to the relief requested, we require a D3 conditional use variance. There are 9 conditions that are outlined in your ordinance. We meet 8 of them, which I'll go through in a little bit. But the site is within 1,500 feet of a residential zone or use. And I noted that cannabis is a permitted conditional use in the corridor commercial zone where we're located. And I think it's worth noting that there are several requirements that are applicable to all cannabis businesses. That's under the code of Chapter 250-211. And I'm just going to go through briefly how we either meet or will meet those standards. Cannabis products are to be in a separate vault or safe with no other with the other items in safe, securely fastened to the wall or floor, as coordinated by your township police and other applicable regulations. Ms. Bailey noted that there is a vault and that as we coordinated with the police, we will meet the applicable regulations in that regard. Retailers are only allowed to sell cannabis paraphernalia to registered qualifying patients. That's not applicable here since we're not a medical use. External signage requirements. We're proposing to use the existing pylon sign, and the sign face area, we will use that. So we're not proposing any change, and that will comply. And the one wall-mounted sign that will be proposed will comply with your signage requirements. We have to adhere to Chapter 170 of the Land Development Code. As I go through my testimony, I'll show how we comply. Security and reporting, obviously a major topic. We will meet all requirements. We will coordinate with the police department. Mr. Manguso had noted that other applicants have agreed to on-site security, and we would work with the township regarding that matter. And in the on-site security would to monitor loitering and to prevent that type of activity. And there's no cultivation proposed on this site. It's strictly retail. And Mr. McNeil had mentioned the fence. We had agreed that on the three sides there would be fencing that would be sufficient to prevent direct access to the site from the surrounding properties. There are no cannabis consumption areas proposed, certainly no beer or alcohol, as was previously noted. Products aren't visible from public places. As you may have seen from other dispensaries in the township or elsewhere, the windows do not show products as a prominent nature. You see the name of the business, and that's it. The products are inside. They're not exposed to the general public. And all the products and accessories will be stored indoors. We're going to comply with preventing emissions and material disposal requirements and comply with all their applicable codes regarding health, safety, and welfare. As I mentioned, the conditional use requirements to retail dispensaries, there are 9, of which we have 8. Let me just see. Okay. I will go to this exhibit momentarily, but I'm just going to go through the requirements for retail dispensaries.
If I could just interrupt you so I don't have to interrupt you
Yeah,
again.
please.
I believe we're up to A4.
Correct.
And if you
A4.
could just identify that exhibit for the board and the public.
Yes, Exhibit A4, which was prepared by my office, is titled the Cannabis Retail Constraints Map. Basically, it shows the corridor commercial site lots, which are outlined in yellow, and it shows various distances that are required with regards to the regulations, and I will go through the details of this map to show the constraints that not just our site, but most, if not all, sites within the corridor commercial area have to address. So with regards to the conditional use requirements, the first is that the use must be on a commercial corridor parcel within 1,000 feet of the Route 22 right-of-way. On Exhibit A4, if you see the green line and my cursor is going, that shows 1,000 feet from the Route 22 right-of-way. So any of the yellow properties that fall into that would meet that particular requirement. Condition number 2, complying with site design standards, which have been part of this testimony tonight, and as we continue to go through that, it is our position that we will meet those standards and meet additional conditions to help further address concerns that have been noted here tonight. Dispensaries have to comply with Chapter 351 of the Township Code, and they have to have been issued a Township Cannabis Business License, which Ms. Bailey noted that we have been issued, our client's been issued that license. We require site plan approval. That's what we're here tonight for. We're not in the drug-free school zone. Your conditional use requirements limit hours from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. We're proposing 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. We're not located within 1,500 feet of another dispensary. And there's a condition about medical cannabis dispensaries may only sell to those in the medical marijuana program. That's not applicable to us. So the one condition we have to address is with regards to the distance from 1,500 feet from a residential zone or use. And I'm going to refer to A4 again. And I'm pointing to this magenta curved line, which is the distance from a residential zone or use, which I'm going to put the cursor right here. It's these properties that are generally south and southwest of our property, which is this small red square right here. And anything within 1,500 feet, that would be restricted. So as you can see, a sizable amount of the properties along the Route 22 corridor are restricted in this regard. Furthermore, as you go further west and along 22 toward the center, there is a purple square, a lot, that's the air dispensary, and your conditional uses require a 1,500-foot distance between dispensaries. So within the blue dotted circle, that it would be restricted to have a dispensary within 1,500 feet of that lot. So in terms of commercial corridor lots, what you're talking about is on the westbound side of 22, there are a couple of car dealership lots, much larger Target lot, and a couple of the lots in the middle of the highway, which all of these are occupied with other uses at this time. So what this exhibit shows is that there are substantial constraints. And when you look at the relative size of the lots, our lot is small enough and in a location that is not that easily accessible except from Route 22, especially when you're proposing to have improving the fencing that's already there so that you do not have direct access, certainly from the neighbors to the rear. The park, which is also surrounded by fencing as well, so it's not as if you could walk through the park directly and just walk around the fence. And there is no sidewalk along 22 here. So it, at best, would be a hazardous walk for somebody to try and walk to the dispensary. And as for trying to get to park at the rear, here say, when you have fencing and so forth and not easy access, driving along 22 East and then going to the exit Fairway Drive and driving around, and it's not the most easily obvious area to figure out, that drive in and of itself would be over a mile away, roughly a little over a mile. A little over a mile. As I checked on Google Maps, it said from that spot to right behind there if you drive, it's about a mile away. And so given this location, relatively isolated on the roadway, and contained more or less because you don't have easy access from lot to lot here, that I do believe that having it at this location with the conditions that have been outlined would minimize potential impacts, or I would say eliminate them in the surrounding area. Because this site can be used without substantial site or exterior improvements. We're talking about interior improvements, which are primarily to comply with business codes, security codes, so that this business is able to operate consistent with township and state regulations. And most of the customer activity, let me see if I can get to the, I believe it's A2. Give me here a second. Technology is great until you apply it. Okay. Well, I was trying to get to the parking lot, but 16 of the 23, oh yeah, that's right. And then, let's see. Oh. Thank you. No, please, that's good. So you have 23 parking spaces. As was noted, that 7 of the spaces on the side here, employees would be encouraged to park there to minimize the activity in and out of this particular area, the area that would be closer to a lot line, and that the entrance and exit would be at the front door for customers, and that the parking would be located in this particular area. And Ms. Bailey had noted that over a 12-hour day, you're talking about 200 customers over a 12-hour day. Some hours may be a little higher, some hours may be a little lower, but you're talking about 16, 17 customers an hour on average. In my conversation with Ms. Bailey, the turnaround for a client is typically about 9 minutes. They come in, they come out. They're not there to stick around, they're not there to consume, they're there to pick up what they're buying and leave. And in many cases, it may be quicker because they're ordering in advance online to pick up what they seek to buy. As part of the conditional use requirements, we have to address how we further the purposes of zoning. And I believe that purpose A, which is encouraging action to guide the appropriate use and development of lands in a manner that promotes the public health and safety and general welfare. Adult use cannabis retail facilities located here can operate in compliance with local and state law, provide security measures without substantial site plan changes, and in cooperation with local officials, and has access that really is just limited to and from Route 22. And as was noted as one of conditions, should we be approved, is that we would have to get a letter of no interest from DOT regarding this site as it is proposed. Purpose G provides sufficient space and appropriate locations for a variety of uses, including commercial uses, according to their respective environmental needs to meet the needs of all citizens. Site's on the Route 22 corridor, and it does not have, although it abuts a residential neighborhood, as it's designed in terms of certainly does not have direct vehicular access to the site. There's fencing there which will be improved, which will seek to eliminate access to the site directly from the neighboring properties. We also have to address the negative criteria. There's no substantial detriment to the public good. The applicant has noted complying with the applicable regulations and recommendations for security, including surveillance cameras. With regards to lighting, it will go with the recommendation of the board engineer and staff, and will meet the applicable requirements regarding light spillage. And certainly for issues like inventory storage, it will meet the applicable state and local regulations. The retail use focuses on adult cannabis products and accessories. There are no other product uses, and it's entirely within the building itself. The site allows for efficient operations. Most of the parking is at the project site frontage. There is no on-site cannabis consumption that will occur. And based on the map I show, based on the regulations, there are few available areas along the Route 22 corridor that combine in terms of limited access. This site, I believe, is an ideal site in terms of limiting access to other locations, as it's just on and off from Route 22, and with proposed security, fencing measures, it would certainly eliminate easy, convenient pedestrian access. There's no substantial detriment to your zoning ordinance or zone plan. The site conforms with but one conditional use requirement for cannabis retail, more than many surrounding corridor commercial lots. As I noted on my map, most of these lots have residential constraints, given the nature of where residential zones and uses are relative to the commercial corridor. The proposed use is consistent with zoning ordinance improvements that respond to changing economies and market demands, including the appropriate location for adult use cannabis. And the constraints limit lots that are out of the area to the far western area of 22, with much larger lots that are more appropriate for auto dealers and big box users. With the office space, the parking requirement is less than it would be if it was entirely cannabis, but in either instance, we would meet those parking requirements. So for the reasons I've outlined, I request that you grant the variance for the D3 conditional use. Thank you.
And I have no further questions for this witness.
Are there any board members that would like to question Mr. Moronsky's testimony?
Can I just ask, do you agree as the expert planner that converting what is a vacant retail space into a viable one is a benefit from your expertise?
Most certainly, and it's certainly consistent with what your master plan talks about in terms of responding to changing economies and market demands to keep the commercial corridor zone viable.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to open it up to the public. Are there any members of the public that would like to come forward and question just the testimony that Mr. Moronsky has given? Thank you. Yes.
Hilda Artisona, 680 Rosner Drive. Did you say that the, one of the buildings is going to be the cannabis, and the other one is going to be to sell paraphernalia?
No, no. What I said was with regards to paraphernalia, that they're limited in terms of what they can sell that's exposed to the public. In other words, they can't show their product on the exterior of the building.
But if you go in to buy pot, you can then you'll know that next door you can buy anything
No,
else.
no, 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 no. There's one building, and there's two spaces.
Right.
The one space is for the cannabis retail. The other is a separate office space that has nothing to do with the cannabis retail. The office space does not have a tenant yet at this time, and office space is permitted in the commercial corridor zone.
Okay, I just wanted
Okay.
clarification. And the other question I have, which I'm not sure is for you, is there any possibility of you folks going and looking at it so that you could see what we're so concerned about? Because you can just walk there and people walk back and forth all the time. I used to buy batteries at that place. All I had to do was walk, a few feet. So my
We can only have one person talk at a time. We can't have people
Well,
calling from the
okay,
audience.
I know it's not a question, it's just a comment. Is it possible for people to go and see for themselves? Not all of this, because this is not telling you a real story. And as far as the 23 parking spots, we've lived there for 31 years. There's like 6 parking spots in front of the Battery, and maybe 6 were in front of the mattress place. So I'm not sure where 23 parking spots all of a sudden
Well,
came up.
if you look at the plan up there, I believe that's A2, on the side of the building, as you see the cursor, there are 7 spaces that are on the side of the
For
building.
employees.
Well, we're recommending they're for employees. And then,
Okay.
as you look at the front, there are 10 spaces right up against the building.
Right.
And then there are 6 more right here. So you have 16 spaces in the front here.
It's very tight.
Well, but it meets the ordinance requirements for both cannabis retail and for office. And also, too, as I had noted in discussions with my client, the typical turnaround for a customer is 9 minutes. And we're talking about, as I said, 200 customers over a 12-hour period. So you're talking about, say, 16.
In a very tight space. And that's why I respectfully ask that you go see it. Because it's very tight. I can't even imagine the in and then coming back out. I mean, because like I said, we live there, we see it all the time. So.
Well, I can only say that this plan is subject to the review of the board engineer, and we have to meet specific site plan requirements regarding access. And as we noted about the DOT letter of no interest, they're also going to want us to make our case about access also.
Well,
So,
I certainly am not the expert. I can only tell you from experience, from living there 31 years. From my house, I could see it, and I can tell you that the in and out is not going to be as easy as it's been shown. It's just not, because, and especially when you're going to have that much of a turnaround. The Battery store hardly ever had anybody.
which is probably why they're not there anymore.
Exactly, exactly, and the mattress store too. But still, the in and out was not convenient. And my biggest concern is that children playing in the park can see those buildings, so they will see the people coming in and out. And I don't think that that's right. You don't allow it near a school. So I don't see how you could allow it near a children's park. That's my comment.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public that would like to question the testimony the witness has given?
My name is Peter Huzovic. I live at 685 Rosner Drive. Huzovic. Is there any specific reason why you guys chose the mattress side, not the battery side, when making this thing? Just curious. Is there any reason why, is it a certain distance from a park or from the houses or anything, that zoning, anything in particular, why you chose that side? Is it just a park, I'm just curious.
I couldn't answer the specifics with regards to the interior building. The location within the building doesn't change the relief we need. It's the same, so.
Okay. Now, is there a reason why they didn't choose the entire lot, for example?
You mean the entire building?
Correct. I'm just curious why, I know maybe size-wise and there's reasons, I guess.
The idea being was that we wanted to address concerns about the New Jersey DOT, concerned about the amount of volume for a 4,600 square foot cannabis facility. So we wanted to reduce the size in order to reduce potential concerns about access.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Sylvia Velasquez. I live at 987 Redwood Place. I'm just going back to your testimony. You had indicated that you had 24 spaces?
23.
23 spaces?
Yes.
Now, do you have an idea as who will be renting the other office? Because what the traffic will be like coming up to that parking spot? Because the other dispensary that's down a couple of blocks from there, I go to Walmart and I see it double park, triple park in that little corner lot, and you have also the shoulder being utilized by people parking there legally. So you have now major traffic on 22, people park on the shoulder lane, which is a hazard for people, especially when you are within the community, because now you may not think that you're not gonna have any foot traffic along the community, but you will have foot traffic. Because when there's a wall that you need to buy something, you're gonna find a way to go there, park illegally somewhere, and go and buy and come back and go home.
I understand your concern. I can't speak to that specific site because I wasn't involved in the approval process of that, so I don't know what type of relief they had or how much parking they needed. I also do know that's at a corner site, so it's a lot busier in terms of the activity. Like you said, there's traffic coming in and out of the Walmart there. It's a little different from this site because it is kind of its own lot. It's not on a corner. It's going to be surrounded in a fence on 3 sides, and its access is limited. And as for the number of parking spaces that we're providing takes into account both the cannabis retail space and the office space.
Okay. I just want to make sure that for the safety of the children and the community and the people that walk around, the pets that people have, it is an area next to a children's playground. Tennis courts are there. People go and play and exercise. And you have definitely an open way that someone can definitely walk through and trespass people's communities, people's homes. The other concern that I have also is property values. So who's going to want to purchase a home, and we want to sell a home, of someone that comes into the community and say, well, there's this dispensary there. I don't want to go into that community. So the property values may dip a little bit. So, there's a lot of concerns about safety, people walking, and definitely traffic on that 22. I mean, get out of work and you always find that area there that's being under a lot of construction right now, and it gets flooded on 22. Everybody's passing by our home all the time and blocking Fairway Drive because everybody's got to catch Parkway southbound, and our quality of life is, it sucks because we constantly got to wait. I got to get to work at a certain time. I work at a hospital, I'm a nurse, and I have to leave extra early if I notice that there's going to be 22 eastbound shut down because of flooding. They have all those cars passing by. I just think, we definitely need to, I understand there's a need for it and it's legal, but, safety, it's very important to everyone, and I feel that what is the contingency plan when you have that other location, that other office being rented? How many of that establishment is going to come in to do business there? And now you have limited amount of space, and on 22, you're going to have all these cars parked on the shoulder.
I don't know if they're going to park on the shoulder.
You can't foresee that because you don't know.
Well, but at the same time, you did bring up some good points, that 22 is a difficult road. I mean, I know that, you know that living here. But this is a permitted conditional use, and whatever permitted uses, such as an office or otherwise, would be there, the challenges on 22 would still exist. And this use does not make that much more difficult or challenging. This use in and of itself doesn't do that because it's a relatively small use.
I understand what you're saying.
3,000 square feet.
It's small use, but the volume that's going to bring in, the volume of customers that's going to bring in is going to be more than the volume of the battery place that was there, the mattress place that was there, the volume will be there. You're estimating 200 people.
Over
a
12
day.
hours.
Over 12 hours, that's what you're estimating, because you can even forecast that, right? You can even forecast
Well-
that, because if you go to Walmart and stand in the corner and see all that traffic coming in, and the cars being double parked and triple parked in that little lot, and then on the shoulder, if someone gets injured, someone's crossing and gets injured, get hit by a car, who's going to be liable for that? Who's going to, kids are playing in the park in the little tennis or in the little swings, and something happens to one of those little children.
I
Who's gonna be
understand your
responsible for
concern. I understand your
The county is
concerns.
going to be responsible, you're going to be responsible, someone was smoking pot on the sidewalk there and then crossed over to the parking lot?
We don't have a sidewalk in front of our property.
No, you don't, you have a side entrance to the park. Your property has a side entrance to the community that we all live in,
What side entrance are you referring to?
a sidewalk.
Where?
If you're facing 22 from the parking lot, it will be on the left-hand side, right next to the
Chairman,
tennis
you're going to have
court.
to get order because you can't
Yeah.
have 15 people
Yeah,
talking.
can we just have one conversation at a
And-
time?
And
Thank
as
you.
we noted, there's going to be a fence on 3 sides, which there is fencing there now, and that we will work that on all 3 sides, that access
Three
would be
sides
restricted.
fencing?
The one side would be along 22,
Okay.
where there would not be fencing.
Okay, I understand that, but what I'm trying to say is, the people that are living there are the ones behind, whoever lives behind that establishment, okay, with the lighting and with the noise or whatever's going to be happening, okay, their quality of life is going to decrease. Property values will also get hit, because who's going to want to be moved when we want to put up the house for sale and move into a community that you're going to have foot traffic, you're going to have a lot of volume of people coming in, buying their stuff? They can do whatever they want. But as far as my quality of life and as far as my ability to come home and rest and not see strangers coming up to go and buy or park in front of my house, it's a problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Before we continue, a lot of these are comments. I just need questions. If you want to question the witness's testimony, that's fine. At the end of your questions, we're going to open it up to the public, and you can make your comments then. So are there any members of the public that would like to question just his testimony?
Sharon Galitsky, 532 Fairway. You had all of this noise around there about talking about the rest of 22 and car dealerships. I mean, to kind of gloss away from the issue. Yes, you're only missing one piece of what you need, which is the zoning variance. And we can't gloss over that because you're meeting 8 other things.
Not at
You're
all.
glossing over it. We just passed this not that long ago. The ink is not even dry on the ordinances in Union, saying 1,500 feet. Not long after, here you come glossing over 20 feet, and I would even argue 0 feet, because that property literally touches many of our residents. How are we glossing over 1,500 to 20, or in my opinion, 0?
Well, we're not glossing over anything. I mean, obviously, as an applicant, we have a right to request relief from the requirements of the ordinance. And the municipal land use law, there are standards which our application has to meet, and this board has to approve. And I went through them in terms of the proofs that we have to put on the record in order to justify the requested variance. And I do believe that based on the record that's been produced, not just by me, but also by my colleagues, the architect and the operator, that we have met the standard for that conditional use variance. It's not glossing over to state that we do meet 8 of the 9 requirements, and with the ninth requirements, with the conditions that we have outlined, and the nature of this site, I do believe that that particular variance can be granted.
Okay, well, I don't think you've proven that to anybody in the room. Maybe a couple people here, I don't know. I don't have any privy to all of these emails that apparently have been going on for years, but going from 1,500 recently passed ordinances for a reason to just 20, I mean, that to me is glossing over. That is not a true thing. So, I mean, and then as far as fencing, you know, the fencing along the park, you know, which is everybody's concern, you know, I don't think you've even been there. It's very low. Look at me. I jumped that fence, not the tennis courts, but along 22 on the park. That is very low fence. I know it's not your property, but even if you put up a 10-foot tall fence on 3 sides, people can go through our park and jump that fence. I could. You know, people much younger than me, of course, certainly can do that. So you're not limiting any. You might make it a little more difficult, but there's going to be access by foot and, of course, traffic in our neighborhood. And you're glossing over that because your pretty picture with the purple trees don't show the park and the entrances and the fencing that exists to that park where little kids play. I mean, there's little kids apparatus there, and we're glossing over that too. So that is just, I mean,
Okay.
What is your feelings on that? It's not going to be inaccessible. You're claiming like it's inaccessible with your new fencing.
I stand on the testimony that I provided.
And then as a planner, I was very impressed with your credentials. You're saying, you're asking these people to just ignore the NJDOT, that we don't need their zero interest.
No.
Because that point of time when you're going to have your 17 cars per hour, which I think is underestimated, that's right where 3 lanes become 2 lanes. That's where your egress is, and that's going to be a lot of cars. Before anything is done or approved or even thought of, we need to get some kind of study, maybe another lane there, I don't know. But right now, to have that volume of cars coming out at that point, people drive down the shoulder of that road because they don't want to let somebody in. We all know this. So as a planner, I mean, right where that is, you know, yeah, it's not on a corner, but it's literally right where 3 lanes of traffic going 50 miles an hour is going boom to 2.
The point being, I didn't gloss over anything. As a condition of approval, we have to receive a letter from New Jersey DOT regarding no interest with regards to the application. We have to receive that.
Well,
and
that
that's
should have
under
been
their
received now. Your lawyer's asking them to ignore that.
No,
And
no, that's not true.
because it's going to take so long. So,
Well, but that's a condition on our part that we have to meet that approval.
okay, so that has to be done ahead of time. So nothing will be done until you have that.
It's again,
All right, well, that's good. It
we
makes
have to
it
meet
easy.
all of the conditions of the resolution that will be, if this application is approved, there's a resolution that's adopted, and as an applicant, we have to meet those conditions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Moronsky's testimony? Any board members with?
Nita Blaska, 611 Evergreen Parkway. I'm just curious to know the capacity of the building.
Capacity in terms of?
People, how many people are allowed in that building? How
That'll be
much?
governed by fire code.
Yeah.
If there's a maximum, it'll be posted, they can't exceed it.
Do you know, so you don't know?
I don't know it offhand, it'll be posted though, because it's part of what would be required when they get permits to open. They're obligated to.
Round 50.
I'm sorry?
Round 50. The one exit.
Okay.
It's only a one exit building. That's round.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can't be no more than that.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get in. Oh, I'm sorry. Nita, and after that, B-L-A-S-Z.
Any other questions from the public for Mr. Moronsky?
Bannister Poe, 1020 Blackberry. I just have a question. You mentioned earlier that there's no easy access from our neighborhood to your property. I don't know if you're aware that from your fence and the tennis courts fence, there's an alley, which is owned by PSE&G. So no matter what we can, no matter how much we want to close that alley, we cannot do it.
Well, but we can, as we've noted, we will improve the fencing as we can. And as I also noted, that rear area is not the most easily accessible place for customers to come. It's not right off of the highway.
Okay, just to let you know, I live in the corner.
Yeah.
Facing the park. I notice a lot of people in the morning when the speedway is still there, they park their car, get out of their car, walk through that alley, go towards in front of that property, go to the speedway to buy milk and bread. And if I can point to you where the alley is, I don't know if you know it.
I know where it is.
Okay, that is by the three trees that you draw over there, and
Well,
that is the
that's the
alley.
architect's
Yeah.
plan.
So I just want to make sure that you're aware, because you mentioned earlier that are you part of the people who went around to do the survey, to check on the neighborhood, or you're not part of it?
I don't know what you're referring to. If there were a group of people surveying the area, I wasn't part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. You mentioned that there's PSE&G owns that, I mean, there's a right-of-way there?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a right-of-way there.
There is.
Okay.
You want me to pinpoint?
No, I don't need you. I just want to make sure I want it on the record that there's okay. Have
Ma'am.
you reached out to PSE&G at all and see if there's any way we can close that off?
I have not. PSE&G is a client of our firm, so I think there may be a conflict there, but at the end of the day, a PSE&G easement is not an alleyway. It's not a public, I guarantee that the easement that PSE&G has does not allow public access. It is something that they maintain.
Excuse me.
It's really an
Thank you.
enforcement issue. But I could tell you, having represented PSE&G, because they're a client, that their easements are not for public access.
Okay.
Well, one of the things I can think of as the lawyer for the board is to perhaps we can make some inquiries if it's PSE&G property unrelated to the applicant, but certainly putting it into the record for the public's benefit, since obviously you live it and you're here. Some kind of posting of no trespassing or a way the public service can cut. Well, you can laugh all you want. We're trying to help. Otherwise, we could do nothing and just have the board vote. I'm trying to accommodate the comments we've heard tonight. So, Mr. Chairman, why don't we move on and just, we'll try to get to the end of the hearing. That's all we can do. All you can do is try to coordinate in a sensible and reasonable manner and civilly discuss the issues. If you don't want to discuss it, then we'll move on.
Ma'am.
Diane McMurdo, McMurdo. I'm on Jeffrey Lane. My question to you is, you said that it's not easy access coming in through the Fairway Drive area. Well, my question to you is, if you were to, I guess you've been in the area, so you know
Yes.
how to get there. If you were coming from Elizabeth, Roselle Park, as either an employee or somebody who's looking to buy something there, would you go all the way down 22 West to turn around on a tough U-turn?
Very tough.
Can I finish?
Yeah.
To come all the way back to go there? Or would you take the hard way that you're saying is, or would you come into Fairway Drive?
I can't predict what other people are going to do with
But we
regards to how
can,
they drive.
because we live there.
Well,
That's-
you can predict what you will do, but you can't predict what other people are going to do. But the point is, my opinion, based on what I saw, was that to get to the rear of this property from Route 22, it's not direct. You have to go around the park. You have to wind your way through several streets off the roadway. And especially if you're not familiar with the area, it's probably easy to get lost.
But again, my question to you is, do you really think that it's not going to happen? Because
I don't know.
You're saying it's not easy.
It's not. And I don't know the answer whether it's going to happen or not.
You're saying it's not easy to come into the Fairway Drive area to get to your establishment. My question to you is, do you think it's easy to come from that part of town to go all the way down west to come back east?
I don't know.
Then maybe that should have been checked out too.
Any other questions at this time? Ma'am?
Well, actually, it's to you guys. Is it possible for you to visit the site? Or would you
The
consider?
board is already
Ma'am,
familiar, they're
No?
obligated
Just for
to
your
be familiar with the
record,
site.
we all visit the site before we present anything, so we've all visited it, yes, we have looked at it.
You have looked at,
Yes.
and you've seen the access,
Right,
the easy access?
I call it a cut-through, yes.
A cut, yeah.
That's what yes.
That's exactly what
We've
people.
all,
Okay.
and we understand.
Any other questions? If not, I'm going to open it up for comments.
Thank you.
Any comments from the board members? Mr. Johnson would like to make a comment.
Would it, Ms. Bailey, would it be feasible for you to definitely plan on having security and restrict your sales to people coming in cars only and restricting walk-ups, so that would prevent anyone from coming through the area and walking up? I mean, I'm just throwing it out.
If I may, I don't know if we can restrict, prevent people from walking up, not that we think it's going to happen, but I'll let Ms. Bailey speak as far as the security is concerned. I don't think legally we can prevent someone, say you walked here, but we can't police that either. I don't think we can restrict it like
Well,
that.
if you had security there, because she's
Then
waffling about security.
we
if
can
you
absolutely
definitely had
enforce that.
security there, you could prevent people from coming from the back.
Yeah.
From the playground area.
Well, it goes to the point I made, you're taking a vacant space and you're enhancing it with improvements by an applicant with a permitted use. So there, and I asked the planner this specifically because I wanted him to, because I don't testify, but he admitted and made it a part of the record that when you get the site plan approval, there's going to be improvements to that parking lot, there's going to be improvements to the exterior of the building, there's going to be improvements to the fencing, and with that is going to be coming a use that will allow to address some of the particulars that the neighborhood is talking about. Because the applicant has to survive there as well and wants to succeed, not only for its purpose, but for the purpose of the area. That's planning 101.
And any other questions? Okay, then I'm going to open it up. Any board members with questions or comments at this time? Hearing none, I'll open it up to the public for comments.
Mike Giamo, Giaimo, 680 Fairway Drive. Proud member of the associations. I'm the president of the association. And they basically covered everything that I wanted to say. Property value. Those houses on Jeffrey Lane, they drop $200,000 if this gets put in. Nobody in this room would buy a house on that block. None of your kids. I wouldn't let my kid buy a house there. And as far as the fence goes, the fence guy, unless you put an 8-foot brick wall, I can get through any fence on Route 22 with an 8-inch bolt cutter. That's what they do. It just ask the car dealers. They're always dealing with that. Security would help at the store. They can't stop anybody from walking in between the tennis court and I guess the building. There's bushes there. They put fences up. They put gates up. They take them down. We used to have a fence. We used to have a gate at the park. We ended up taking it down because it would be locked, it would be broken. We finally took it down ourselves and told the town, look, just leave it off. This has got nothing but trouble. Everybody in this room knows it. Maybe not, I'm all for somebody making money with the Buds guy, or whoever it is, but this has got trouble written all over it. And please, I'm asking you, do the right thing. Do the right thing this time. This is bad. These property values dropped $200,000.
I know I said that, that walkway is the gas company. It's not PSE&G, it's the gas company that owns that walkway. And they maintain it. Eileen Casanelli. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Do you need me to spell it again? Casinelli? Yep. That's the gas company. I have talked to the gas company because I'm in that park every day. I pick up all the crap that's left from behind the people. I also go around and weed whack in the tennis courts and stuff. I plant flowers in the front. I know what goes on in there. We had homeless in there. So don't tell me it's not access from 22 when you come down. And then there's a series from coming off of 22, going down around. The township told us that that area is unsafe for us to cross. And then you're promoting more traffic to come down into our area to make it more unsafe for us. So please, don't make it worse than we already have it, especially since the cops don't want to come around. I've called them numerous times, please come down, just parole. There's a shady-looking guy walking around, and there are cops in our area that live there.
One more thing, guys. Everybody knows the exit from Route 22 onto Chestnut Street. The last time we had a survey with the cops, with the DOT, something like 15,000 cars use that exit a week, going off of 22. Now, like what Diane was saying before, no one is going to go on Route 22 west to make a U-turn when they're coming from Roselle Park. They're going to go down Michigan Avenue. They're going to come onto the where the store is going to be, or they're going to come down they're going to come down Chestnut Street and they're going to use Fairway Drive East. So that's going to add more traffic going towards our property. Evergreen Parkway will become a parkway. Once the word gets out, it's just going to be bad. Trust me, believe me, it's going to be bad.
Nita Blaska. I'm just wondering if air pollution and noise pollution has been considered in all of this. And another thing is that I'm asking you to please do the right thing and not have this happen. We're a sweet town. What helps youth helps union. That used to be the motto. And it should still be the motto. So please reconsider this.
Linda James, 613 Jeffrey Lane. I don't know where you live. I don't know what's surrounding your community, but a store that sells cannabis is not welcome in our community. Not wanted in our community. We have, like everyone here has said, the park. Children play in that park. People come around, come up Evergreen or Rosner, and they park in that little area there by the tennis court, and they walk through, get on 22, do what they do. That creates traffic. They park any old kind of way. Like I said, I don't know where you live. We don't want this type of establishment in our community. It's back to the people who live across the street from me on Jeffrey Lane. They have backyards. They have family activities back there. I don't know about the lighting and all of that stuff that they're talking about. Again, think about, I live on Jeffrey Lane. I don't want my property values to drop because of a business that is not welcome. Other people here live in the whole area. They don't want it. As the committee members, I don't know how you people got to be on the committee, if you're voted in, I don't know. But I know one thing, do the right thing. Think about the people who live in the community, who work in the community, who pay $13,000+ in taxes. Our taxes go up every year. Think about what we want and what we need. There are other open business, open places in Union. They can put whatever they want there. We just don't want it in our backyard. Thank you.
Bannister Poe again. I just want to ask everybody if there's anybody, if you witness anybody or seen anybody smoking marijuana, are you affected with the smoke, with the smell? I am. I used to be a smoker, cigarette smoker for 40 plus years. I stopped smoking because it's not good for my health, and also I have a young kid that I don't want him to follow my footsteps. Now, I live across the park. We have seen people smoking marijuana in that park. I mentioned to them before, saying that please don't smoke in the park. It's a public place. You can smoke it in your house. It's legal buying marijuana. It's legal to smoke, but it's within your private property. The way they act like they're entitled to having a legal marijuana. So how can we control the people outside their facility smoking if their security cannot stop them from smoking in the park? We cannot rely on the police, because just example that I gave you earlier, I saw a backpack, smells like marijuana, called the cops. I think I did a good thing, because it's a park. If a young kid picks up that backpack, I don't know what's going to happen. I called the police. I was surprised with the comment of the dispatcher saying that just throw it away. So what I did, I wrap it in a bag, went somewhere else. I spoke to my friend who has a dumpster. I throw it in the dumpster. I cannot just leave it in my garbage and let somebody pick it up again. So please consider this. Our neighborhood is very nice. We're so, the way we treat each other is like family. They look after the kids. We have a very, very nice association that we reach out to. We give food drives. The only thing that we're asking you is please consider, don't let this establishment be in that place. They can go somewhere else. There's some towns that they don't allow those cannabis dispensary in their township for one reason. They don't want it there. They don't want the traffic. They don't want any trouble. But us in Union alone, I don't know why we have so many dispensary here in Union. Is it because of the money, like what I heard earlier? It's a good income for the town, but please consider, money is money, but the people around our neighborhood, it's not. You cannot buy it. Okay, please, thank you.
Any other comments?
Sharon Galitsky, 532 Fairway Drive. I think I threw my opinions in as I was asking questions, but I don't want it either. I don't want it because I don't want the park to become something else. We've had problems with that before. A few people have mentioned we have severe problems with police response. So saying that we're going to partner with the police and expect them to, help manage things that happen, outside the store is unrealistic. And as Mike said, there's no way people can't come in our neighborhood. I mean, we have GPS switches that everyone tells me there's 15,000 cars a week that go down our tiny little residential road, and any of them can turn in and, use that business. They know it's there. I mean, we've had problems with the gym in Kenilworth that's at the end of our street. People fly down that street 60 miles an hour to go to the gym, nowhere near the amount of people that are going to go to that store that we're proposing. And, I know the planner's saying, oh, it's just another business, it's filling an empty building, But the point is, this is not like any other empty building on 22. This building has a huge gate right into our neighborhood. There's no way they're going to stop it. I've walked through there. It's open access, and apparently we can't close it off. And it's going to have people coming in. The gate to the park is literally right there. We don't see that anywhere on these pictures. You need to know that, if I enjoy doing that, I don't. I would go to the store with my friends, and I would just walk over to the park and sit on a swing and have a good time. We don't want that in our neighborhood. So we want the children to enjoy those swings and everything else. So please vote no on this, because, going from 1,500 feet to like nothing against homes where there's actually children living in these homes, I just don't think that's right. But anyway, that's my opinion.
Any other comments? Hearing none. Counselor, would you like to sum up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I obviously heard the comments made by the board as well as the public. I think our professionals here tonight presented the proof necessary to grant the variance being requested. I just would like to remind the board that I know there's a lot of stigma associated with this use, but at the end of the day, this proposed use is a permitted conditional use. Also, I heard all the public comments about all these illegal activities that have been allegedly happening in the park, or whether people are parking on the shoulder, and all these activities that really, it comes down to an enforcement issue. And at the end of the day, the proposed use that we're proposing is highly regulated. Not only is it regulated by the township, who the Township Committee had granted a resolution of municipal support. It's regulated by the township with permits, and it's regulated by the state, which they already granted their conditional license. And I think at the end of the day that you heard from our professionals that this location is going to be, the access is limited to Route 22. And you heard from our professionals tonight, as Mr. Johnson stated, we have no problem with the security, adding the security, and as Mr. McNeil had requested, if the board wants fencing on all three sides, we have no problem adding that, and I think those are enhancements to the application that would enhance the security, and as noted about the lighting, we'll certainly work with the board engineer, and if there's anything we can do to assist the municipality with contacting or otherwise relaying any information to PSE&G or whoever owns that easement, which again is an enforcement issue. That's not a public alleyway. We certainly would assist in any way we can do with that. Again, there's not going to be any consumption on site. All loitering is going to be prohibited, and that would be regulated, and with the enhancement of the security, that's certainly something. We're a retail business. We're not looking to have an illegal use here. It's highly regulated. And again, as you heard from our professionals, we're going to be working with the Township Police Department. So it's not something that's just going to be a use that is not coordinated with the township, and it's a use that the township permits. And I believe the testimony presented tonight by our professional supports the variance being requested, and I respectfully request that the board grant our application. Thank you for your time tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just add too, as the attorney for the board, and I know this is a long record now, we're pushing up against 10 o'clock, but not to belabor any points, but I want to remind the board and the public, because there was some uncertainty about what the township's role is. We have engineering and fire department and professional comments, including for the State Department of Transportation, that need to be adhered to. They can't be overlooked. They have to be satisfied for this to happen. That's number one. Number two, and public may not realize this, but I realize it as I've sitting here almost 20 years. Anytime we have a case on Route 22, we hear traffic and congestion and issues that are a problem legally under the municipal land use law. It's unreasonable to hold some of these exterior conditions against this applicant who's coming with a permitted use. That's the difficulty when the board has to consider this case, there are other ways. I tried to offer the comment, and council just did a good job summarizing, I think, what needs to happen here. We've heard public comments about using that alleyway themselves. So the applicant isn't there yet. So if it's a problem, you try to tackle the problem somehow. I don't know what the answer is, and it may not be easy, but if it's the PSE&G or Elizabethtown or whoever has the property, it's worth pursuing, it seems to me, to say, press testing, don't use, there's no cut-through, some way to alleviate the problem that you're experiencing. It's not the fault of this applicant. They aren't even there yet. What you're going to get from this applicant, I think, is some improvements, which, as the planner summarized, is a benefit. And that those benefits are what this board, this is not town council, this is not the police. This board is obligated, and I, as their lawyer, have advised them, they follow the municipal land use law. And what they're presented with, whether you agree with it or not, and I may not agree that marijuana permissibility is something that should be a priority. It's here. This board has already passed 2 other applications very similar to this, with the reason being its distance to the residential zone as it relates to Route 22. May not be your neighborhood, but it's other residential neighborhoods, and you hear the factors that are legal in nature. The emotion and the concerns you have are noted. No one's trivializing it. I suggest that what has to happen, if some of the responses I heard that you're getting from the police are legitimate, that's a problem. But this board can't cure that problem. You have to either deal with the police or deal with the township at the council level to say we need better this, or that to deal with the problem, especially for a park. If that's, because they're not there yet. To me, the example I use, because it is a relatively new use, the best example I've given this board in the past, and I'll do it for your benefit, is it's like a liquor store. And if you're going to put a liquor store there, which is permitted, people may not like drinking. Alcohol's a demon. If you're an alcoholic, it certainly is a demon. People drink in public parks and do things that aren't acceptable. But from a land use perspective, if a liquor store wants to go in a site where the liquor sales is permitted, it would be legally unreasonable for the board to tell them you can't go in there because of traffic and because of other concerns they have with the area. It's what that particular use is doing to the area. And I think what the board has to deliberate on are the factors here. And there's a lot of unknown because this is a new use, but it's regulated. You can only try. The market's gonna dictate whether this succeeds or not. Right now it's an empty building. That's important in land use circles, which is why I made the point. Nobody wants abandoning retail businesses. That's why it lures some of the things you might be seeing. Doesn't have the 24-hour security, doesn't have the come and go of the people on the site. It doesn't have the applicant who's making a large investment in its business to be successful, not to have it dwindle and not become successful, become a vacant building again someday. So I raised that, Mr. Chairman, because we did spend a lot of time. I know it's late, but if anyone has any questions of me legally, I can certainly add for the board. But the deliberation should factor that in. It's the municipal land use law that drives your deliberation. You know that. I just wanted to repeat it for the public's benefit as much as anything. The structure is there. Route 22 is there. They're not changing the structure. They're improving the structure. They're improving the site. There's no doubt about that. Your concerns are with the use, and it's speculative because it's permitted. I mean, nobody knows for sure, but if people are going to buy pot and go to the park and smoke, the police should be called and they should be arrested. If their security sees that, they're going to try to prohibit it. That's not acceptable. It's that simple. I mean, I don't think you can anticipate that happening. You could speculate. You think that's going to happen. If it happens, all we can do is try to address it. So I don't believe that that type of testimony can go into your deliberation fairly, because that would be unreasonable, in my opinion, to believe that you could look into the future and see that type of illegality, which is what it is, happening. Because if it is, the town has a mechanism to deal with it. Police, police, police.
Thank you for your legal comments, Mr. Pansula. At this time, I'd like to conference this application. Mr. Benevegna, would you like to begin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we all observed tonight, there was a lot of concerns from the public. And just remember, this board takes that into consideration. I'm sure Ms. Bailey also heard the concerns, and hopefully, I highly recommend that you concentrate security-wise on that cut-through of Jeff Lane and the park, just to give a little peace of mind to the neighborhood. I mean, it came up several times. Also, we need to take into perspective here, people, that cannabis dispensaries are legal in New Jersey now, and this application is permitted use in commercial zone, so I'll be voting yes.
Mr. Johnson?
I agree with my colleague, Mr. Chairman, and I really believe that with the security, and I think Ms. Bailey will take that into consideration. Obviously, they don't want to fail in this endeavor. So as long as that happens, I will be voting yes. Also, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Martins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the public for coming out and hearing your comments and concerns. Without you guys coming, we really don't know what's going on in the community, so thank you for that. As well as hearing that the applicant will take the board's request into consideration, so based off of that, I will be voting yes.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I think that this project will basically improve those conditions that already existed that they're complaining about. The security is going to be there. That's not there right now. The fencing is going to be a lot better. I see the positives outweighing the negatives here. And as long as they're going to comply with all the requirements, regulations, and codes, I'll vote yes for this application.
Thank you, Mr. Wiley. Mr. Graves?
I've heard the community concerns, but since it meets the criteria, I'm going to have to vote for this.
Mr. McNeil?
Mr. Chairman, I also agree with my colleagues. I do want to commend the attorney and the professionals for the presentation and the defense of this application. It is unfortunate what the community has gone through, and I think our police department needs to do a better job. But it is a regulated use, and with whatever improvements we can do to satisfy as best we can the neighbors with respect to their concerns, and reaching out to Elizabethtown Gas for the use of the free use of that right-of-way, I will be voting yes for this application.
Thank you, Mr. McNeil. As for myself, we all know that this facility is permitted on the Route 22 corridor. So based on the testimony placed before the board this evening, I feel that the variances are justified and the property is well suited for the proposed use. Therefore, I too will vote yes for this application. At this time, may I have a motion and a second?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board grant the applicable application and the council is directed to prepare a resolution consistent with the board's decision.
Second.
Mr. Manguso, may I have a roll call?
Mr. Benavanga.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. Martins.
Yes.
Mr. McNeil.
Yes.
Mr. Wiley.
Yes.
Mr. Graves.
Yes.
And Mr. Champy.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
November 29th, we'll have on the board's agenda for the resolution of approval.
Thank you.
I'll send you a copy ahead of time.
Mr. Chairman, there being no further business come in before the board, I move that we adjourn.
McNeil, second.
All in favor?
Aye.